Hey guys, Mr. Bellinger here. So this lesson is going to be about our moon. Um, I don't need you to take notes or anything. I just want to let you understand a little bit more about it before we move forward. Um, but the one thing I wanted you to think about is how come the moon and everything in the solar system, the planets, the sun, the stars, how come they're mostly round? Why do you think they're mostly round? So hopefully you'll be able to answer that question at the end. But if you look at the moon, you see that there are some parts that are brighter, others that are darker. The darker parts are called mare or Maria, which means they're kind of like dry lakes, if you will. Um, Usually meant that there were lava flows there, or there was water there at one point, and now it's dry, which means they're lower than the surface level. And then the highlands would be more like mountains, which you can see they're a little brighter. So the sun reflection is a lot brighter here than here because there are some shadows and whatnot the from being under the surface. And then when you look at the side of the moon that we see, you can see that it's a lot more a lot smoother on our side. Then if you look at on the back side, the side we don't see, you see there's a lot more craters around that moon, and that's because meteoroids or meteors, things that are in space, hit that side of the moon more often than this side because it's facing us. So the other side get hit a lot more often by rocks or dust from space. So that's why there are so many craters on the other side of the moon. Um, and though those craters tend to also cast a shadow because they also fall below ground, which doesn't allow the sun to reflect so much from it. The moon is dry, airless, which means there is no water on the surface and there is no air. We cannot breathe on the moon. It's very small compared to Earth, and it doesn't have an atmosphere, so the temperature is vary a lot. Sometimes it's really hot, sometimes it's really cold, depending on the side of the moon facing the sun. If you were to compare the moon and the Earth, you can fit about 50 moons on the Earth. So it's definitely a lot smaller than the Earth. There's different theories about how the moon was start orbiting around Earth. There is the intact capture, which means that the Earth was going, and then the moon was going, and they saw each other, and then the moon started orbiting around Earth. There is the disintegrative capture and accretion, which means the moon was flying by Earth and it got too close, um, and then it disintegrated, which became more like a orbit, like the rings of Saturn. There's fission, which means that part of the planet, let's say a part of Earth, kind of slipped away from Earth, and then it became a natural satellite. And then there's the collision, ejection, and accretion, which means that an object was flying around Earth and then it hit Earth, but Earth was a lot bigger, so not really happened to Earth, but except that the object disintegrated, and then it started orbiting around, and then as it orbited around, then it decided to become together and become the moon. Or if they were walking by each other and then they got close enough, they started to become friends and let's say start orbiting around each other. From this theories, which one do you think actually is the most believed by scientists that happened to our Earth and Moon? Give you some more time to think about it. And the right answer is it's the collision ring theory, which means that Earth was on its own by itself, and then an object came and hit Earth, and then it just disintegrated. So object was flying, hit Earth, object disintegrated, and then all these little pieces start collecting together, and then it formed the moon, um, which is like a bunch of debris together. And then as it started orbiting around itself, the core, the middle of it became really hot. Oh, excuse me. Um, really, really hot, and it started to form this round circle, and gravity started forming around it because it got bigger and bigger. And then everything around the surface cools down, and it became a more of a solid ground. Some of the lava from the middle start erupting, which created kind of like the Marias or the seas that you see on the moon. So that's the one that they both believed it happened to the moon and the Earth. And here's an example. If you think of a cotton candy machine, it's kind of similar to what um, we experience with the moon and the sun, because sorry, you can see that the little things of sugar, they're all separated. They're not together at all. But then they start forming around that stick, and that's how cotton candy is formed. So think about that as far as the planets and the moon and the sun, just little pieces of debris around Earth, and then things started rotating, connecting with each other, and it becomes one kind of like solid, round piece or object in the space, similar to how we do it with cotton candy.
Very big, very big.
You're welcome to keep watching. That's all I had for this one. We'll see how big it's going to get, but that's the idea behind planets, that little pieces combine to form together, and that's why most objects become round, because it's spinning and rotating. So they kind of tend to get divided around the whole object.
Yeah, yeah.